Okay, we're going to do something a little different. We're going back in time to a moment that changed, well, everything. And we're not just going to talk about it like a history lesson with all the dates and names. No, we're going to live it together from right there on the streets of Paris in 1789. So I want you to do something for me, just for a second. Forget everything you've ever read in a textbook. I need you to feel this with me. Have you ever been truly hungry? I mean, not just, oh, I missed lunch hungry. I'm talking about a deep, aching hunger that literally never goes away. That was my life. That was our life. For millions of us, all across France. See, this whole story, it doesn't start with grand ideas or political debates. No. For us, it all started right here, with an empty plate, with the desperate, day in, day out struggle for just one loaf of bread. You know, that winter, it was brutal. One of the worst anyone could remember. The cold was so bitter it just froze the earth solid, killed off all the crops. And the tiny bit of grain that actually survived, the price shot up so high it would cost me a whole week's wages. I mean, I watched my own neighbors, good, hardworking people, just wasting away. You could smell the hunger in the streets. And here's the real kicker. There were so many of us, 28 million people packed into France. Our population had just exploded. But the amount of food, the farmland, that didn't grow with us. So you do the math, right? More and more mouths to feed, but the same number of empty plates. And for centuries, you know what we were told? We were told to just accept it, to trust in the divine right of kings. The idea was that the king, he was chosen by God, and our job was just to obey. Our suffering, they said, was God's will, a test of our faith. So what do? We bowed our heads, we prayed, we hoped things would get better. But when you're starving, you start to notice things. You start to see that, hey, wait a minute, not everyone is suffering. Our prayers weren't being answered, but you can bet their tables were still full. So we started looking around, really looking, and we did not like what we were seeing. Okay, look at this. This really puts it all into perspective, doesn't it? You've got the clergy, the priests and bishops, and the nobility, the lords and ladies. Together, they're what, 2% of the country? A tiny, tiny slice. And that other massive piece of the pie? Yeah, that's us. That's everyone else. The shopkeepers, the farmers, the workers. We are France. And this right here, this is the whole rotten system in a nutshell. We're the 98%. We own almost nothing. We pay all the taxes. It's not a kingdom, it's a pyramid scheme. And guess who's at the bottom holding the whole thing up? Yep, us. And get this, it's not just one tax. Oh no. First, the king's men come for the tile tax. That's for the state. Then, the church comes for its tithe. They both get their cut, so pretty much every single coin that passes through my hands gets snatched up by one of them. And what do we get back? Nothing, just empty words and promises. So you have to wonder, right? Where is all this money going? It's a question we started asking first in whispers in the dark, but pretty soon, those whispers got a whole lot louder. Well, for one thing, it went to the king's wars. So many wars. We paid for all of them. And then, get this, we find out our money is being shipped all the way across the ocean to help some colonists in America fight the British. I mean, good for them, right? Fighting for freedom. But it left us completely broke. It was a debt the kings rocked up, and we paid for it with our empty stomachs. 50%. Just let that sink in for a second. Half. Half of everything the government collected in taxes didn't go to fixing roads or helping the poor or anything like that. Nope. It went straight into the pockets of bankers just to pay the interest on the king's debt. We were literally working ourselves to death just to stay afloat. And while all this is happening, while we're scraping the bottom of the barrel for crumbs, we hear stories, the stories we would hear about the Queen Marie Antoinette and her parties, a new gown for every single night, these incredible feasts at the Palace of Versailles. It felt like another planet, except it wasn't. It was a world built with our money. So you can guess what happens next, right? When the king finally realizes the country is broke, what does he do? Does he maybe, spend a little less on parties? Does he ask his rich, noble friends to chip in? Of course not. His brilliant idea was to tax us even more, the people who had absolutely nothing left. And that, well, that was the final straw. But then, something started to change. You could feel it in the air. In the cafes, in the town squares, people started talking. And they weren't talking about God's will anymore. They were talking about rights. Our rights. Suddenly, you started hearing these names, Locke, Rousseau, and their ideas were electric. The idea that government should be chosen by us, the people, that we're not just subjects, we're citizens, that our rights are born with us, they aren't gifts from a king. I'm telling you, that idea, it was more dangerous, more explosive than gunpowder. And it spread like wildfire, not because of some big proclamation from on high. No, it was a million tiny sparks. People who could read would stand on a box and read the newspapers out loud to everyone else. We'd pack into coffee houses and argue and debate all night long. It felt like an entire country that had been asleep for centuries was finally waking up. Well, that was it. The time for talking was done. The king, he tried to shut us up. He tried to ignore us, to push us back down. But it was way too late for that. Something had been unleashed on the streets of Paris. And then things started moving fast. In May, the king finally calls this big meeting, the Estates General. For a second, we actually had hope. But when our representatives got there, they were treated like dirt, made to stand while the others sat. By June, they literally locked us out of our own meeting. So what did we do? We went to a nearby tennis court and we made a promise, an oath. We swore we would not leave until we had written a constitution for France. We weren't the Third Estate anymore. We were the National Assembly, the real government of the people. And that's when the rumors started flying, that the king was sending in the army to crush us, to arrest everyone, to make an example out of us. We were terrified. We knew we couldn't fight trained soldiers with sticks and stones. We needed weapons. And there was one place in Paris that was full of weapons and gunpowder, that old, hated fortress that stood like a monument to the king's power, the Bastille. So on July 14th, we marched, thousands of us, not just men, but women too. Shopkeepers, blacksmiths, everyone. We went to the Bastille, and it wasn't just about the gunpowder anymore. It was about what that place meant. It was a symbol of everything we hated. We fought the guards, we stormed the walls, we freed the prisoners. And when it was ours, we started tearing it down, brick by brick with our bare hands. That day changed everything. We proved to the king, to ourselves, to the whole world, that you can't just ignore the people forever. We found our voice. But once the cheering stopped and the dust started to settle, a huge question hung over all of us. A question that would lead to years of chaos and blood. Okay, we tore the old world down. But now, what do we build to take its place?